So we are recording on New Year's Eve. This is how dedicated we are to the podcast. We've had a few crazy things come up over the past couple days, so landed on New Year's Eve. So this will be coming out, what is that, a few days after, Wednesday after. And we decided that we wanted to do kind of a year in review. I know a lot of companies have been doing this. I've been getting all my year in review emails this week and last week. So this will just be kind of a mishmash of personal and business and kind of industry things all thrown together.
As only we or I certainly can do.
So, Dr. Elouise, do you want to kind of start off? I know you did a LinkedIn post about this as well. So we'll maybe kind of use that as our guide today.
Actually, I haven't done the post yet. So
Oh, okay. So post. I thought the post had been completed. So post to come.
Post to come, exactly. It's first off, Happy New Year to everybody, and it's been an amazing just year, and I think it's worth noting that probably there's many miles traveled, there was many presentations, workshops, like blah blah blah, lots of things going on. But I think the most impactful thing, and this is of course self-serving, but I think it's twofold. It's all the connections made and reconnections, and still seeing people coming out of the pandemic. So that's number one. But number two is starting this podcast. And again, as I put in my coolest things of 2024, credit goes to you for coming up with this idea. But I really this has been so much fun, and so I'm just thrilled that we are doing this, and it's one of the highlights of every week. And when we're not recording, I'm just always thinking about topics. So I just want to start with that, and this is our 32nd episode. So, and we didn't start, I think, until March or April. So
Yeah.
that's my highlight, first highlight.
April launch. And in kind of looking at our summary data and information for the podcast as well, for those who are thinking about doing something like a podcast or some kind of show, just start. Right. That's what I can say. We are probably not the most organized, systematic podcast. We love hanging out, and we're friends, and decided we were nerdy and we're hiking and talking about procurement tech stuff. And so we're like, we might as well record these. And we don't do a ton of marketing. We don't have a website yet. We're not sending out a bunch of emails. We primarily market the podcast through LinkedIn. We've been fortunate enough to be featured in several YouTube and podcast lists, which have really helped drive subscribers. But just jump in and do it. There's no actual playbook. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I will say, I have our stats pulled up as I'm sharing this. Our main distribution channels for the pod are YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. We've definitely most heavily leaned into YouTube, and because they provide such great data and statistics. Spotify and Apple are much more limited in the information they provide. So in regards to impressions, click-through rates, average duration, subscriber viewers, unsubscribe, all of this is not available. So we have decided to lean into YouTube, and I think that was the right choice. And if you are thinking about doing some sort of show, I definitely think it's important to have a presence and learn how to leverage and use YouTube as much as possible. So I'll kind of start off. I like to look at my year in themes. So I'm going to do kind of a general theme for 2024, and then I'm going to do more of a procurement specific theme. So for me, the theme of 2024 was getting familiar with AI. And I'm comfortable being uncomfortable, knowing how important AI is and figuring out how to incorporate it into my daily life as much as possible. So that's my general theme for the year. And then from a procurement perspective, I think the theme of the year is the year of intake. I think we've seen procurement
Yeah.
orchestration or intake, whatever your preference is, how whatever you like to call it, just absolutely explode and go viral. We've got over 20 plus now intake providers. We've got most of the other major providers having some sort of intake play, focusing on intake messaging. We've had companies like Zip with crazy, crazy valuations. So I think intake is important. I think it's going to become more important as it's combined with AI and is given more intelligence. And I think it's going to continue to be important for next year. But that's what I would say is kind of the major theme for procurement this year.
Yeah, I would certainly. Orchestration was the big winner, and I'll just flag something that I had mentioned before. Jason Bush had a really good write up after DPW, and on stage there was this debate between the legacy providers about their, I think it was Ariba, Coupa, and Ivalua or maybe. Anyway, they are having a debate, and Jason's reflection on that was it seemed to be it was long overdue, but that sort of debate, but also it seemed like it was talking about history at that point, or I'm butchering his words, but that it was no longer really relevant because the big winner was at DPW, especially orchestration was everywhere, and I think we'll see that much more in 2025. Although one thing I would say is I think orchestration platforms are bigger than just doing orchestration. I think there's a tendency to just bucket it as, oh well, it's just this one component. I actually argue that these orchestration platforms represent the next generation procurement platforms, and I think that's I'm as sort of an outsider, I think that's why Zip got that massive valuation, because what they represent is the next generation of these tools, and the legacy tools are in trouble. And I know I go after them all the time, but I think that's no doubt in my mind that that's happening. And then, of course, and we'll talk as probably towards the end as we talk about 2025, but the emergence of AI this year was staggering, and we kind of rolled into the new year, and people were just kind of like wah 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 Gen AI. But over the course of the year, as the agentic workforce, as OpenAI developed, as Gemini developed, and Anthropic, like we got to the end here, and it really feels like going into 25 that it is all about real AI, real-ish AI.
Yeah, and I think AI is here to stay, so you need to learn how to get comfortable with it.
Yes, and I think we should tease that we have at our next episode will be Sarah and I have a little competition going. We are building our own AI agents to
Yes.
see how that goes. So that will be our first episode of the new year, aside from this one. So.
Virtual Sarah and virtual Dr. E. So the battle of the agents has begun. So brace yourself.
And by the way, this is not the one that Matt from Sligo created. This is I am teaching, or I'm learning myself. So
So to kind of close out, I know we're kind of bouncing back and forth here between AI and intake, but so my again just kind of learnings from this year, AI is not going anywhere. It's going to become a part of every person's life, personally and professionally. So get comfortable with it, start learning how to use it, start small. ChatGPT 4, basic things like that. I mean, a couple clicks and you're in and using the platform. I want to give a recommendation to folks who want to learn more about AI, but are not maybe the most academic type, and they want simple, easy way to understand what's happening in the world of AI. And it's a podcast called The Artificial Intelligence Show, and it's hosted by Paul Rotzier and Mike Kaput. I have seen Paul speak in person twice in the last 2 years. He is an excellent speaker. He's also the CEO and founder of the AI Institute. And every single week, they put out an episode and they talk about the latest updates in AI. So it's a really good way to get a summary every single week around what's happening in AI. And then they talk about different use cases and how they're using AI, how their clients are using AI. And they did a summary show that came out on December 19th, and it's called 25 AI Questions for 2025. And I would highly, highly recommend listening to it. It is not anything to do with being procurement related or procurement specific, but they curated all the questions from their AI community. I think they're at something like 9,000 members now. And they put them in a logical, kind of easy way to understand. And I found great value in listening to the questions and their responses. So, again, just a plug for that show. For me, it's a great AI resource. And it's in my weekly must listen to podcast list.
Love that. I'm going to add it to mine.
All right. So should we talk a little bit about road tripping? You do a ton of traveling. So we'll start off with yours, but I have a few of my highlights as well.
Yeah, I think the certainly the key takeaway is I flew just for Carney, I flew 127,000 miles, and I haven't done the carbon footprint calculation because I don't really want to, but I will. And yeah, that was a lot, and I actually did more than that because I did have some personal trips to and from here to Vegas. So yeah, it was quite, and actually, what's even crazier about that number is it would have been easily 150,000 if I hadn't gotten COVID. So, because I had to cancel three, a trip to London, a trip to Brazil, and uh, a trip to Atlanta. So it just would have been absolutely absurd amount of. That's the most I've ever done. Um, Interestingly, I only did 37 nights on in hotels. So that was a lot of air travel. Well, actually, it was a few more. Sometimes I don't have to pay for the hotel depending on the arrangements, but yeah, maybe call it 40 nights. So not as many nights away, but certainly a ton of air travel this year.
So a lot of quick trips then,
Yeah.
and heaviest travel year of your entire career.
Without a doubt, by far. I mean, yeah, exactly. I don't remember what it was last year, but it was nothing even close to this year.
Well, to me, it makes me think you're doing more speaking, and
Yes,
keynoting often requires you to be in person, and it's a 1 or 2 day thing. So it's a quick trip, but a lot of air miles.
exactly. And that's exactly, and it should come as no surprise. We'll talk about this next, but I had 56 public speaking events. Now, some of those were virtual, and we can get into that in our next topic. But yeah, that was a lot of public speaking, which I absolutely love. I had so much fun.
Yeah.
But the downside is there's a lot of miles traveled.
Yeah. You got to figure out how to be productive on on your flights. Okay, so for me, I had 7, so lots of car road trips, which I'm not factoring into any of this, but I had 7 flying trips. For me, I primarily don't travel internationally, so I had 2 of my 7 were international trips, which is big. I went to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and Australia. So those were big for me because, again, international is not typically something that I do. So my total air miles traveled were 25,224 miles. 56% of all my air miles came from my Australia trip. So
Wow.
heavy, heavy miles towards my Australia trip, which clocked 14,192 air miles. So
That's
my data is a little skewed because of that one trip flown in there. I visited 4 new places. So Puerto Vallarta, Mexico is not new for me, but Puerto Vallarta is. I went to Montana for the first time. Absolutely loved it. I am an avid hiker. There is some of the most incredible hiking I have ever seen, and I am obsessed with the series Yellowstone, so
mm,
1883, 1923 in Yellowstone, which made me fall in love with ranch life, and so even I think more of my love of Montana came from that show. I went to Australia for the first time, visited a few different places within Australia. And then surprisingly, I went to Nashville for my first time. And you would think that's someplace I visited, but I had started my new job and we had our major, major sponsorship and conference there. And I love country music, again, thanks to Yellowstone and living in Austin for almost 3 years. And the best in-person country music I've ever heard was in Nashville. So absolutely loved it. I got to meet incredible songwriters and musicians every single day, sometimes 2 or 3 performances a day. So those were my new places visited. And then I attended 3 conferences, 2 procurement. So one was ISM Vegas and the Sourcing Industry Group conference in Palm Springs. And then I attended my first ever IT focused conference, which was put on by a Mac end user software company called Jamf, their JNUC conference, which was about 3,000 kind of system admin end user folks attended, heavy education focus. So that was really, really interesting to compare and contrast a procurement conference to an IT conference. So lots of learnings for me to take away from that.
that's amazing. So as you were talking, I thought you might be saying would be moving to Montana, but then I realized you might be moving to Nashville. So look for that in the future, I guess.
So the Scudder family has made quite a move to Franklin, which is about 25 minutes from Nashville. So I have an aunt, several cousins. My uncle owns property there. So there's a large grouping of Scudders that have implanted into Tennessee. And so I'm planning to go back for sure next year. And you never know, Dr. E. It's definitely surprised me how much I enjoyed Nashville. I'm not sure living downtown would be my vibe. But it's a very cool place to go and visit.
Yeah, I could also see you representing country music artists and doing marketing for them, which I think that
I
as you
I thought that as well after I had such a wonderful time, and there are so many talented songwriters
yeah.
that you don't even know about because the big names pick up their songs. So to actually be able to hear the songwriters perform their own songs is pretty special.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
All right, any other traveling stats from you, Dr. Elouise, that you want to share? Conferences, speaking, anything else?
Well, it was funny because you talked about the new places you went. I went to very few new places. For me, it was a lot of the same places. I went to Dubrovnik, as I've mentioned like 1,000 times, and went to Amsterdam several times, London several times. I did go to Munich briefly. That was a 36-hour trip, or at least I was only in country for 36 hours. Um, Maybe even less than that. Anyway, it was ridiculous, whatever it was. So New York, lots of New York trips, Atlanta. So there really wasn't that breakthrough, went
So
somewhere
no
interesting.
newness factor for you.
Yeah, I was what which and the sort of sad part is people recognizing me like where I go to the same place for coffee, so I'm getting recognized in Amsterdam, getting right by at the hotel, I'm getting recognized at the coffee places in London. So it's like, and Dubrovnik. It's just like I gotta expand my horizons a bit.
Mhm.
What? Go ahead.
So and then a couple just personal kind of trips that I'll do a quick shout out. Heather the toner queen is one of my dearest friends. Absolutely love and adore her. And one of my focuses this year was doing at least a couple trips that were not only done for work. I am not very good at traveling for pleasure. Historically, I just only travel when I need to for work. And so I made it a mission to specifically plan a couple friends, girls related trips. So Erin and I went to visit Heather for a few days, which we had just the most wonderful time. She's one of my favorite entrepreneurs and women CEOs and founders in the procurement space. And then I am part of a group. We call ourselves Supply Chain Girls Gone Wild. Some of the most fun, interesting women in procurement that we just love hanging out and being together. So we try to do at least one or two girls' trips a year. So Paul and I actually hosted everyone at our house and we did wine country for a few days. Dr. Elouise, you got to come for our kickoff dinner where we had some other folks come in. And so that's something I'm proud of because I am not the best at taking time out of my calendar and out of my work life to do things specifically with friends. And so I wanted to just call those two things out that I was proud of myself that I actually did what I said I was going to do this year. And then Paul has two girls, and his oldest, Claire, graduated from Chico State. So, kind of crazy going back to the college education environment and sitting through a graduation. So, that was a call out. And then we're about an hour and a half from Monterey Carmel. Hiking is something that I absolutely love. It's kind of my happy place and helps me clear my head and be more focused in life. And so we always try to do every 6 months at least a quick mini trip to Monterey. So we did two trips, like 1 or 2 night weekend trips, and do lots of hiking. So again, that's more of a keeping my sanity and mental health in check. And I'm glad that it's something that I've prioritized and it's definitely helped and made a difference.
I love that. I'm glad. I'm proud of you for doing that. I did absolutely zero of that this year. So, um, because when I was not traveling, I wanted to stay home. I just wanted to be home and not do anything. And as evidenced by the 2 month sabbatical I took, where I just stayed home. And what I loved about being home was I got into a daily routine of walking the dogs and feeding the dogs and eating breakfast and well, watching a lot of TikTok and whatnot. And so, uh, yeah, I think it's so funny because the last thing I want to do is go anywhere other than to just be home and live like a semi-normal life.
Well, I think when you live on the road as much as you do, traveling, even for pleasure, hanging out with girlfriends or doing things becomes a little less appealing. So I think my miles are a tenth of yours. So I'm a little bit, I have a little bit more flexibility and room in my schedule for that.
Well, that's true. Although I have to say, your dinner for the Supply Chain Girls Gone Wild, that was so phenomenal, and I'm glad I thank you for the invitation, and I'm glad I attended. It was so much fun. I mean, everybody there was just amazing, and it was just really nice to see people. And for those that don't know, Sarah has the most gorgeous house. It is magazine worthy, and I just it was it was like being at a resort. It's just that nice, and it was a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous evening in the summer. It's hard to remember summer because it's like 40 degrees out right now, but it was
Mhm.
really nice.
So, my other big share that I wanted to make, which is personal and professional, is I pivoted from procurement to IT, which is a very, very big move for me. So, I spent my entire career in procurement, primarily in the marketing procurement space on the sales side, marketing side, go to market side. In the marketing procurement software space, I started before marketing procurement was even really a thing, became more of a thing. And I am now in what's called ITM, or IT asset management. Um, so that was just a huge decision and huge move for me to step out of my comfort zone, and all my friends and network and community and everything I know about the procurement world, and pivoted into IT. And a couple things I wanted to share now that I've been working on the go to market side in the IT space for about 6 months. So, IT leadership, like procurement, struggles to show their value and impact company wide. And I didn't realize how common of a theme that would be, and how similar between procurement and IT. So, as a CIO, it is a very, very big challenge to show your value and business impact across all the key stakeholders and throughout the entire organization. So it's a big focus for IT leaders, and it's something that CEOs and CFOs are really looking at for IT leaders, is how they're showing their value and how they're helping to drive business impact. Data hygiene is a real problem everywhere. You never escape the data challenges, and it's a huge, huge challenge in the IT space. Technology silos make it difficult to have a technology foundation you can trust. So again, a lot of similarities in the procurement space. But I think I was just surprised about how big of an issue and challenge this is in IT. I was some for some reason in my head, I didn't think it was going to be as big of a challenge as it is. And so one of the things that in the world of IT, and the solution that Oomnitza, my company, provides, is that connective tissue sitting on top of all of these technology systems to clean and centralize and give people data that they can actually trust and action. And again, to me, that goes back to a lot of what procurement is looking to solve for. So, a lot of similarities there, a lot of focus on the data piece and showing the value that IT provides.
So I want to just comment a little bit. I'm not surprised that IT CIOs are struggling for relevance. In fact, I wrote about that in my book about how I think the part of the reason is that they struggle for relevance is for so many years, and many of the folks that are still in those positions but might be a little bit older grew up in a time where the CIO had to be very technical. And over the last, I don't know, decade or so, I think more CIOs have come out of business school with a much more anchored in business value, and seeing that managing a bunch of servers is not your job. And it has to be more about innovation and about it has to be more about driving the business outcome. And some might argue, like myself, that the CIO position isn't even relevant anymore, and like the real value comes from the chief digital officer, and so the CIOs really need to move over to this new positioning, because historically IT has been command and control, and you can do this, you can't do that, this, that. And we live in a world where businesses need to be successful, they need that agility that does not come from traditional IT. So I think what you're seeing is that the churning of the engine as it tries to recalibrate. And then the other thing, the same with the IT asset management, is the data. We would think that IT has good data because they're the ones that have spent decades managing the data, and the fact that their own house is not in order is kind of embarrassing, though I don't blame them necessarily, because you have all these different systems with different communication methods and tracking. But still, I think we all have this sort of notion that the IT group has good data, and
Yeah, and I think the CIOs that are gonna win in 2025 are those that figure out how to help organizations unlock the full potential of their technology investments.
right,
And when I say technology, I mean physical and digital. So
yeah,
that's data centers, that's laptops, that's monitors, that's peripheral devices like printers, that's software. So companies spend a lot of money on technology, right? I think nobody would argue that statement, but it's how do you actually optimize those investments that you make company wide. And to me,
mhm.
that's what the good CIOs, that's what the leading CIOs are going to be able to figure out how to do. And
Yeah.
then,
I mean, that's job one. That's the only job because, and even the sort of, I come back to two things. It just since we're on this topic, I just like this idea of all the CIOs used to manage data centers on premise because that was before the cloud. When the cloud came around, now we just lifted and shifted what was in the data center into the cloud. But if that's all you did or do and you're managing that, that's not creating value. That just saves you some money on the short term. What you need to do is start to break those applications up and get them more embedded into the more sophisticated cloud and AI infrastructure. And I have seen CIOs struggle with that like wildly. And I mean, it just I watched a CIO get hired sort of at the beginning of this year, and like the COO had no problem firing that person like 8 months later because it was clear that that guy didn't know what he was doing, and he came from a pedigree of working for another big company. So that's one thing I'll say, and then the other thing is you also have to look at the end user because if I'm sitting, pick a company and I'm just a business manager of some variety, and I learn I want to go build an AI agent or I want to go do this. What is that? What is my ability to go do that? And is it frictionless? And the answer is no. And I'm going to be constrained from doing that, and that's where I think the CIO's opportunity is, but it's also where they fail because they want command and control, and but that's not how 21st century business works.
yeah, and I think it's a balancing act from a risk and compliance perspective, right? The CIO needs to protect the assets and make sure company information isn't leaked and things don't get hacked. That's a huge priority, cybersecurity in particular. But at the same time, you don't want to limit the business from being able to be innovative and creative and get ahead of their competition. So that's definitely something a strong CIO, right? A good IT leadership team needs to figure out. And then from the data perspective, I think one of the reasons why IT struggles so much with data, one, there's a lot of purchases that are still done outside of the privy of IT. So
Wonder
mark
why that is.
marketing is one of the culprits, right?
Hmm.
Marketing sees something, they go and buy it, and so you can't manage what you can't see. So if
Yep.
IT doesn't know it exists, how can you manage it? So that's a challenge. And then because there are so many different systems that companies invest in, and they're not um, tied together from a data perspective, you've got people logging in, exporting spreadsheets, doing all this manual work, and then you try to reconcile data, you've got duplicate data. So having the ability, which is one of the reasons why Oomnitza exists, is to consolidate all the asset information into one view, giving organizations good, clean data that they can actually trust and action upon. So I think there's a lot of challenges in the space and the data world for IT, but I think there's a lot of opportunity, and that's how someone can show their value by figuring out a way to get it cleaned up and keep it clean ongoing.
And everything you just said, you could just trade out, like, is the same language. I don't know if you realize it, it's the same language we use for procurement. Like, you can't track what you can't see. It like that's spend visibility 101.
Yeah.
So
So that's my probably my biggest news of the year is pivoting from procurement to IT. It's been incredible so far. I have to say I have never used ChatGPT so much. I have so many acronyms and things that I'm still learning, given that I'm still semi new to the IT space. So lots of videos being watched, lots of content being consumed, lots of AI being used to make sure I understand and have a good grasp on what's happening in the IT world.
yeah, I congratulations and also shout out to Donna Wilczek who also went over to Oomnitza and she's a dear friend of the show and you and me. So it's nice to see you all stepping out. Interestingly, a number of folks stepped out of procurement this year, if not temporarily. So I thought that was an interesting small trend, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah. All right. Anything else from your year in review, Dr. Elouise, that you want to shout out to our listeners?
Uh, I mean, well, my personal highlight of the year was a less than stellar one. Was I got COVID for the first time, so I'm still reeling from that. After 4 years, and with all the travel I do, I got it this year. I can't believe I got it this year, but so that
Na-
was
Natural immunity. Let's hope you're a one and done.
yeah, exactly. Although we'll see how it goes. Um, yeah, it was just, I mean, I said at the beginning, like, it was so great to see people, at the Certo conference in Dubrovnik and DPW, which we've all talked about. Like, there were so many great experiences, and I'm putting together a little video of I mean, just the pictures and so much fun. And like like especially at DPW, the smile on my face or the other people's faces. I mean, I took a ton of selfies this year, and I think that's probably my highlight is the fact that there's so many great connections and seeing people in person. It really, and I know I keep referencing this. I've probably referenced this 100 times in our various podcasts, but I think as a society, we're still coming out of the effects of the pandemic and the lockdown. And I still feel this like amazing connection when I see people that I took for granted prior to 2020. And even I would say all the cities I go to are still not as full. Maybe some areas in some cities, but it's just not as many people out and about, and so I feel that. So having these human connections and seeing people has been really probably my positive highlight of the year.
Yeah. And I think it circled back to something we've said earlier. Events are not dead. I think in-person events are here to stay, but I think we are going to see a pivot more towards unique, exceptional experiences versus the standard trade show conference format that we're used to in procurement. So I think you're going to see more custom curated, smaller regional events. And I think that's going to be a trend for next year for both conference event companies, but also for a lot of the software providers who host their own events. I think you're going to see them lean into that format more as well.
Oh, 100%. And I also think that the regional aspect, I think people's budgets, travel budgets, may continue to be constrained. So having certainly regional, like America versus Europe, but also even within the U.S., like New York versus San Francisco versus Chicago, like having some of these more or even micro areas like LA or Vegas, not that they're small, or Atlanta. I think I think we will see more of those. I think that's the way to really get to people, because I just don't think people either don't have the time, the willingness, or the money to go to these, to just keep going to these big conferences.
Yep. All right. I think that's a wrap. Our last episode of the year, episode 32. This will be playing as our first kickoff episode in 2025. And we've got a lot of interesting content kind of in the works for 2025, and I think you'll start to see a bent towards AI. So more AI content to come.
Yeah, and I think so. I've already, just to sort of, you tease the AI, or we tease the AI. So definitely more AI. I think there's some big news with the spider chart and sort of implications therein. And also, I think it's time to revisit the risk topic, because I think as we go into 2025, we're probably at the most volatile time. And I don't mean this in a political sense, but I think we have to change the risk discussion, because I think it's the calculus has changed dramatically as we go into this second half of this decade. So that should be three really hot topics coming into the new year.